The transport ship shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace. Hannah pressed her face against the small window and saw Nexus Prime for the first time. The planet looked perfect. Too perfect. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, and white clouds drifted over green continents. No storms, no dangerous weather, no deadly animals trying to eat everything in sight. It looked nothing like Earth. Hannah touched the acceptance letter in her pocket. She had read it so many times that the edges were worn soft. Out of millions of humans who applied, only 3 had been chosen for the Galactic Military Academy. She was one of them, the first from her colony world to even try. Attention passengers. We are now approaching Nexus Prime Orbital Station. Please prepare for docking procedures. The ship's voice was smooth and calm. Everything here seemed smooth and calm. Hannah wondered if that would change once people met her. The docking bay was huge, bigger than her entire hometown back on Earth. Colony 7. Ships from dozens of worlds sat in neat rows. Some looked like metal birds. Others were round and smooth like eggs. A few seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Hannah grabbed her single bag and walked down the ramp. Her boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. Other passengers moved quietly, their feet barely making noise. She tried to walk softer, but it didn't work. Human boots were heavy. Human everything was heavy. Cadet Hannah. She turned around. A tall figure approached her. At first, Hannah thought it was wearing armor. Then she realized the silver plates were its skin. The being had 4 arms and eyes that glowed blue. "I am Senior Cadet Rios," it said. Its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "I am here to escort new cadets to the academy." "Nice to meet you," Hannah said. She held out her hand. Rio looked at her hand like it might bite him. Humans shake hands as greeting. "Yes. We do not touch strangers on my world. It is considered rude." Hannah dropped her hand. "Sorry, I didn't know. There are many things you do not know," Rios said. "Come, others are waiting." They walked through the station. Hannah tried not to stare at the aliens around her. She had seen pictures and videos, but being close to them was different. A group of tall, thin beings with skin like tree bark glided past. Their movements were so smooth they seemed to float. Near a food stand, creatures that looked like walking flowers were buying something that glowed purple. "First time off your world?" asked a voice behind her. Hannah turned. A human woman in a blue uniform had joined them. She was older, maybe 40, with short gray hair and scars on her hands. "Captain Tess," Rio said. His voice became more respectful. "I did not expect to see you here. I wanted to meet our new cadet," Captain Tess said. She looked at Hannah. "You're from Colony 7, right? That's a rough world." "Not as rough as Earth," Hannah said. Captain Tess smiled. "No, Earth is special." She looked at Rios. "I'll take Cadet Lee from here. You can return to your duties." Rios's blue eyes flickered. "Are you certain?" "Academy rules state that senior cadets must escort new arrivals. Academy rules also state that human officers can request custody of human cadets for orientation purposes," Captain Tess said. Her voice stayed calm, but something in it made Rios step back. "Of course, Captain. Cadet Lee, you will report for processing at 0800 tomorrow." Rios walked away quickly. Captain Tess watched him go. "That one doesn't like humans much." "Why not?" "His people have never lost a war. Never had to fight for every scrap of food or piece of shelter. They think we're too violent." Captain Tess started walking toward the Academy shuttle. "They're not wrong, but they don't understand why." The shuttle ride to the planet's surface took 20 minutes. Captain Tess pointed out landmarks as they flew over the Academy grounds. The buildings were white and clean. Gardens filled with alien plants stretched between them. Everything looked peaceful and ordered. "It's beautiful," Hannah said. "It is. This world has never seen war. Never had natural disasters. The weather is controlled by machines. Even the animals are gentle." Captain Tess looked at Hannah. "How does that make you feel?" Hannah thought about it. "Nervous. What happens when something goes wrong? What happens when the machines break?" "Good answer. Most species here can't imagine things going wrong. They've never had to." The shuttle began to descend. "That's why they need us, even if they don't want to admit it." The academy was bigger than Hannah had imagined. The main building rose 50 stories into the sky. Smaller buildings surrounded it like children around their parents. Cadets in different colored uniforms walked along neat paths between flower gardens. "Red uniforms are first year," Captain Tess explained. "Yellow for second year, blue for third, green for fourth. Officers wear black." She pointed to her own uniform. "You'll get your red uniform after processing tomorrow." They entered the main building through doors that opened by themselves. The lobby had a high ceiling with windows that showed the sky. Dozens of alien cadets moved through the space. Some walked on 2 legs, like humans. Others had 4 or 6 legs. A few seemed to float above the ground. "Cadet Lee Hannah, I assume," a new voice spoke. This one sounded like breaking glass. Hannah turned and saw something that looked like a walking crystal formation. It had no face she could recognize, but somehow she knew it was looking at her. "Commander," Velek, Captain Tess said. Cadet Lee, this is your primary instructor. Indeed, Commander Velek said. The crystal formations that made up its body shifted and changed color. A human. How? Interesting. Something in the way it said interesting made Hannah's stomach tighten. Commander Velek is Silthery, Captain Tess explained. His people are naturally peaceful. They solve problems through discussion and compromise. Unlike humans, Commander Velok said, your species prefers more direct methods. I understand. Violence comes naturally to you. We do what we have to do, Hannah said. Indeed, that is precisely what concerns us. Commander Velek's crystals shifted again. The Academy teaches civilized warfare, Cadet Lee. Strategic thinking, careful planning, minimal casualties. These concepts may be difficult for someone from a death world to understand. Death world. Hannah had heard the term before. It's what the galaxy called Earth and its colonies. Worlds where everything tried to kill you, where survival meant being tough, fast, and sometimes violent. I'll learn, Hannah said. We shall see. Commander Velok turned to Captain Tess. Captain, please ensure Cadet Lee understands our expectations. The Academy has standards to maintain. He walked away. His crystal body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. Don't mind him, Captain Tess said quietly. He's not bad, just scared. His people have never faced real danger. The idea of humans serving as officers makes him nervous. Why? Because deep down he knows that when real trouble comes, they'll need us to handle it. And that scares him more than anything. Captain Tess led Hannah through more corridors. They passed classrooms where cadets studied star charts and weapon specifications. In one room, a group was practicing with energy weapons. Their movements were slow and careful, precise. Your dormitory is in the East Wing, Captain Tess said. You'll share a room with another first-year cadet. Her name is Yuki. She's Floranian. What are Floranians like? Plant-based life form. Very gentle, very kind. They're natural healers. Captain Tess stopped in front of a door marked with alien symbols. Hannah, I need to tell you something. Being here won't be easy. Some cadets will test you. Some instructors will doubt you. They'll want to see if humans really are as dangerous as they think. Are we? Captain Tess smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Oh yes, we're everything they fear and more. The question is whether you can prove we're something else too. She handed Hannah a key card. Dinner is at 1800 hours. Classes start tomorrow at 0800. Try to get some rest. Hannah opened the door to her new room. It was small but clean. 2 beds, 2 desks, and a window that looked out over the academy grounds. One of the beds had already been claimed. Soft green blankets covered it, and small flowering plants sat on the desk nearby. As Hannah set down her bag, the door opened. A figure entered that looked like a walking tree. It had bark-like skin and leaves instead of hair. When it saw Hannah, it smiled with a mouth full of wooden teeth. You must be Hannah, it said in a voice like wind through branches. I'm Yuki. So excited to have a roommate. Nice to meet you, Hannah said. She didn't try to shake hands this time. Is it true that humans come from death worlds? Yuki asked. Her eyes were wide with curiosity, not fear. That's what everyone calls them. How wonderful. You must have so many interesting stories. Yuki sat on her bed. The plants on her desk seemed to lean toward her. I come from a garden world. Nothing dangerous ever happens there. Sometimes, I think that makes us weak. Hannah looked out the window. Below, alien cadets walked peacefully through the gardens. Everything here was safe and ordered and calm. Maybe being weak isn't always bad, she said, and maybe being strong isn't always wrong, Yuki replied. Outside, the sun was setting. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, new people who thought humans were too dangerous for civilized society. Hannah touched her acceptance letter one more time. 3 humans out of millions had made it this far. She wouldn't let her species down, even if it killed her. Hannah's first week at the academy felt like trying to breathe underwater. Everything was wrong. The gravity was too light. The air was too clean. Even the food was too perfect. She sat in the dining hall eating something that looked like blue rice. Around her, alien cadets chatted in voices that sounded like music or wind or flowing water. Her own voice felt too loud, too rough, too human. May I sit here? Hannah looked up. A thin, pale figure stood beside her table. It was humanoid but stretched out like someone had pulled it through a machine. Its skin was almost transparent, showing blue veins underneath. Large dark eyes dominated its face. Sure, Hannah said. The figure sat down carefully. Its movements were precise but fragile, like it might break if it moved too fast. I am Cadet June. It said Etherian. Hannah. Human? Yes, I know. Everyone knows. June's voice was barely above a whisper. You are famous already. Famous for what? For being the human who might not belong here. June picked at his food with long, thin fingers. Do not worry. I am also the one who might not belong here. Why? June smiled. It made his face look even more fragile. Etherians are thinkers, not fighters. We solve problems with our minds, not our bodies. But my body is weak, even for an Etherian. Other cadets call me breakable. Hannah watched as June struggled to open a food container. His hands shook with the effort. Without thinking, she reached over and opened it for him. Thank you, June said. See, breakable. Everyone needs help sometimes. Yes, but some need it more than others. June ate slowly. What classes do you have today? Military history with Commander Velik, then tactical analysis, then combat training. June winced. Combat training is difficult. Instructor Rax likes to pair weak students with strong ones. He says it teaches both sides something. What does it teach? The weak ones learn to be afraid. The strong ones learn to hold back. June finished his food and stood. Good luck, Hannah. Try not to hurt anyone. Military history class was held in a room with walls covered in star maps. Commander Velik stood at the front, his crystal body shifting colors as he spoke. The Galactic Federation has maintained peace for 200 years, he said. This peace exists because we have learned to resolve conflicts through diplomacy and limited military action. Minimal casualties. Surgical strikes. Civilized warfare. A cadet raised her hand. She had blue fur and cat-like ears. What about the Corvin Rebellion? Didn't that war last 5 years? The Corvin situation was resolved through patience and careful strategy, Commander Velik replied. Yes, it took time, but casualties were kept to acceptable levels. Only 12,000 deaths across both sides. Hannah's hand shot up before she could stop herself. Yes, Cadet Lee. 12,000 people died because the war took 5 years. That is correct. On Earth, we would call that a failure. The room went quiet. Commander Velik's crystals shifted to a darker color. Please explain, Cadet Lee. Hannah felt every eye in the room on her. If you know you're going to fight, fight hard, and fast, end it quickly. Dragging it out for 5 years just means more people die slowly, instead of fewer people dying quickly. And what would Earth do differently? Hit them fast and hard, until they surrender. Make it so painful to fight that stopping becomes the only smart choice. Commander Velik's crystals turned almost black. That sounds like the philosophy of a death world, Cadet Lee. Brutal, uncivilized. Maybe, but those 12,000 people would still be alive. After class, several cadets avoided Hannah in the corridors. The blue-furred cadet walked past without looking at her. Word was spreading. The human was exactly what they had expected. Violent, brutal, uncivilized. Tactical analysis was better. The instructor, Captain Nos, was a reptilian species with green scales. He presented battle scenarios on holographic displays and asked cadets to suggest solutions. Enemy forces have surrounded Colony Base 7. Captain Nos said they have superior numbers and better weapons. Your relief force is 2 days away. Options. Other cadets suggested negotiation, defensive positions, calling for backup, standard military thinking. Cadet Lee, Captain Nos, asked. Hannah studied the hologram. The enemy had good positions, but they were spread thin, trying to surround the entire base. Hit their weakest point hard. Break through and link up with the base defenders. Then attack outward from a strong position. That would result in heavy casualties. For them, yes. But the base survives and our people live. Captain Nos nodded slowly. Aggressive, but practical. Sometimes, aggressive is correct. Other cadets looked surprised. One of them, a floating jellyfish-like creature, pulsed with different colors. Hannah was starting to learn that color changes usually meant strong emotions in alien species. Combat training was held in a large gymnasium. Instructor Rax was a heavily muscled humanoid with red skin and 4 arms. He had the look of someone who had seen real combat. Today we practice hand-to-hand defense, he announced. Partner exercises. Learn to control your strength. Learn to disable without destroying. Just as June had predicted, Instructor Rax paired Hannah with a much smaller cadet. Her partner was a Quillen, barely 4 feet tall with soft gray fur. He looked nervous. Don't worry, Hannah said quietly. I'll be careful. The Quillen nodded but still looked scared. Begin with basic holds, Instructor Rax called out. Hannah moved slowly, letting the Quillen practice defensive moves. She held back her strength, tried to move like the other cadets. Precise, controlled, civilized. But the Quillen was clumsy. He grabbed her arm wrong and lost his balance. Hannah's human reflexes kicked in. She moved to catch him before he fell. The movement was too fast, too strong. The Quillen's arm bent at a bad angle and he cried out in pain. Stop, Instructor Rax shouted. Everyone turned to look. The Quillen was holding his arm and making soft whimpering sounds. Hannah knelt beside him. I'm sorry, she said. I was trying to help. Medical cadets rushed over. They were Flornians like Yuki, gentle plant people who specialized in healing. They took the injured Quillen away on a floating stretcher. Cadet Lee, Instructor Rax said. His voice was dangerous. Step forward. Hannah walked to the center of the room. Every cadet was staring at her. Explained what happened. He was falling. I tried to catch him. I moved too fast. You move like a predator, said a voice from the crowd. It was Senior Cadet Rios. Quick and violent, this is why humans should not be here. That's enough, Instructor Rack said, but he was looking at Hannah like she was a weapon that had misfired. Cadet Lee, you will report for additional training, daily, until you learn proper control. Yes, sir. Class dismissed. As the other cadets filed out, Hannah heard whispers. Did you see how fast she moved? The poor Quillen. I told you humans were dangerous. Only June approached her as she stood alone in the empty gymnasium. Are you all right? He asked. I hurt someone trying to help them. Yes, but you also showed them something. What, that their fears about humans might be correct, but also that you care about not hurting people. June's pale face was thoughtful. That makes you more dangerous and less dangerous at the same time. That evening, Hannah sat in her room studying tactical manuals. The books were full of strategies she didn't understand. Careful approaches, minimal force, acceptable losses. On Earth Colony 7, acceptable losses meant everyone died. You fought with everything you had or you didn't fight at all. Why? I entered, carrying a small potted plant. I heard about combat training, she said softly. News travels fast. Is the Quillen all right? Sprained arm. He'll be fine in a few days. Hannah closed her book. Everyone thinks I did it on purpose. Did you? No, but maybe that doesn't matter. Yuki set the plant on Hannah's desk. It had small white flowers that glowed softly. This is a sympathy flower for my world, she said. We give them when someone is hurting. Thank you. Hannah, can I ask you something? Sure. What was it like growing up on a death world? Hannah thought about Colony 7, the storms that could strip flesh from bones, the animals that hunted in packs, the plants that were poisonous to touch, the constant danger that made every day a victory just for surviving. Scary, she said finally, but also simple. You knew who your enemies were. You knew what you had to do, survive or die. And here, everything is complicated. I don't know who to trust. I don't know what the rules really are. I'm trying to be civilized, but I don't think I understand what that means. Yuki sat on her bed. The plants on her desk leaned toward her like children seeking comfort. Maybe being civilized means different things to different people, she said. For my people, it means never harming anything. For Silthri like Commander Velok, it means solving problems through discussion. For Xenorons like Rios, it means following rules and traditions. What about humans? I think for humans, being civilized means protecting the people you care about, even if it costs you something. Hannah looked at the glowing flower on her desk. Outside her window, alien cadets walked through the peaceful gardens. None of them looked worried about predators or dangerous weather or anything that might want to kill them. Yuki, do you think I belong here? I think the galaxy needs people who understand danger. People who know how to fight when fighting is necessary. Yuki's wooden teeth showed in a gentle smile. But I also think you need to learn when not to fight. How do I do that? Practice. Same as anything else. Later that night, Hannah lay in bed, listening to Yuki's soft breathing. Through the walls, she could hear other cadets talking and laughing. They sounded comfortable, safe. She thought about the injured Quillen and the fear in his eyes. She thought about Commander Velok's dark crystals and Rios's accusations. She thought about Captain Tess's warning that being here wouldn't be easy. Tomorrow would bring more classes, more tests, more chances to prove that humans didn't belong among civilized species, but it would also bring chances to prove them wrong. Hannah touched the sympathy flower on her desk. Its soft glow reminded her that not everyone here was her enemy. Some, like Yuki and June, might even become friends. If she could learn to be civilized without forgetting how to be human, if she could protect people without hurting them, if she could prove that sometimes the galaxy needed someone from a death world. Outside, Nexus Prime's peaceful night continued. But in her dreams, Hannah was back on Colony 7, where the storms never stopped and survival was never guaranteed, where being civilized was a luxury no one could afford. Hannah found the first message when she returned from her morning run. Someone had slipped a datapad under her door. The screen showed a simple drawing of a human figure with a red X over it. Below the drawing were words in basic galactic script. Go home, Death. She showed it to Yuki, who examined the pad with her gentle plant-like fingers. The handwriting is disguised, Yuki said, but whoever did this used a standard academy pad. Someone with access to supplies, so it could be anyone. Almost anyone. Yes, Yuki handed the pad back. Will you report it? Hannah thought about Commander Velok's reaction to complaints, about how reporting the incident in combat training had made things worse, not better, not yet. Maybe it's just one person having a bad day. But it wasn't just one person, and it wasn't just one bad day. The next morning, Hannah's combat boots had been filled with a sticky, foul-smelling substance that took an hour to clean out. The morning after that, her study materials disappeared from her locker. When she found them later, pages had been torn out and important diagrams were covered with black ink. Each incident was small. Each could be explained as a prank or accident, but together, they formed a pattern. During weapons theory class, Hannah's practice rifle wouldn't power up. The instructor, a calm Silthery-like Commander Velok, suggested that perhaps humans weren't careful enough with delicate equipment. These weapons require precise handling, Instructor Kess said, his crystal body pulsing with soft blue light. Perhaps Cadet Lee needs additional training in equipment care. I've maintained it exactly according to regulations, Hannah said. Of course, you did? Instructor Kess didn't sound convinced. Please see me after class for remedial instruction. After class, Hannah stayed behind while other cadets filed out. Some of them were smiling. Not friendly smiles, Cadet Lee Instructor Kess said when they were alone. I must ask, are you experiencing any difficulties at the academy? What kind of difficulties? Social difficulties. Integration challenges. It cannot be easy being the only human in your year. Hannah thought about the messages, the sabotaged equipment, the whispers that followed her everywhere. I'm managing fine, sir. Are you? Because if you were having problems, if perhaps you felt that the academy was not the right place for you, arrangements could be made. A transfer to a more suitable program. Something more appropriate for someone from a deaf world. The offer hung in the air between them. Leave quietly, admit defeat, prove that humans didn't belong among civilized species. Thank you, sir, but I plan to complete my training here. Instructor Kess's crystals shifted to a darker shade. Very well, but please remember, Cadet Lee, that the Academy's reputation is built on maintaining standards. We cannot allow one student's struggles to impact the entire program. That afternoon, Hannah met June in the library. The fragile Etherian was reading a tactical manual with pages so thin they looked like they might crumble at his touch. You look tired, he said without looking up from his book. I'm fine. You are not fine. You are angry and trying not to show it. June finally looked at her with his large dark eyes. Someone is making trouble for you. It wasn't a question. How did you know? Because someone is making trouble for me too. Different trouble, but trouble. June closed his book carefully. Someone has been moving my things. Nothing stolen, just moved. My chair adjusted to the wrong height. My food tray placed just out of easy reach. Small things that make each day a little harder. Why would someone do that to you? Same reason. They do it to you. I don't fit their idea of what belongs here. June's pale hands trembled slightly. The difference is that my people have been part of the Federation for 50 years. Yours have not. So they can't get rid of you openly. Correct? But they can make me uncomfortable enough that I choose to leave. June leaned forward. Hannah, I think we should help each other. How? I am weak, but I am smart. You are strong, but you are new here. Together we might be less easy to break. That evening, the harassment escalated. Hannah returned to her room to find her clothes scattered across the floor. Someone had entered, while she and Yuki were at dinner. Nothing was missing, but everything had been touched, moved, violated. YUK, I found her sitting on her bed, holding a torn uniform jacket. This has gone too far, Yuki said. Her usually gentle voice carried an edge Hannah had never heard before. You must report this. To who? Commander Velok thinks I'm imagining persecution. The other instructors think I'm too sensitive, and whoever is doing this is smart enough not to leave real evidence. Then what will you do? What my people have always done, adapt, survive, wait for them to make a mistake. But the next day brought worse news. During morning formation, Senior Cadet Rios announced the upcoming War Games exercise. All first-year cadets will participate in a capture the flag simulation, he said, his metallic skin gleaming in the morning light. You will be divided into 2 teams. Red team will defend a position in the northern training zone. Blue team will attempt to capture their flag. Hannah found herself assigned to blue team, along with June and several other cadets who seemed less than enthusiastic about the exercise. Red team included some of the Academy's best first-year students. The exercise will use standard training weapons, Rios continued. Stun settings only. Anyone hit by enemy fire will be temporarily paralyzed but unharmed. Medical teams will be standing by. After formation, June approached Hannah quietly. This feels wrong, he whispered. What do you mean? Look at the team assignments. Blue team has all the weak cadets. All the ones who don't fit in. Red team has the popular ones. The strong ones. Hannah studied the assignment list. June was right. Blue team looked like a collection of misfits and outcasts. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe, or maybe someone wants to teach certain cadets a lesson about knowing their place. The war games were scheduled for the following week. Hannah spent her free time studying maps of the northern training zone and planning attack strategies, but every time she suggested an aggressive approach, her teammates looked uncomfortable. Perhaps we should try negotiation first, suggested a cadet whose species resembled a walking flower. Surely we can reach a peaceful solution. It's a war game, Hannah said. The point is to practice combat tactics. But violence should always be the last option, replied another teammate, this one a small furry creature with big eyes. My people have a saying, a wise warrior wins without fighting. Hannah bit back her frustration. These cadets meant well, but they didn't understand. On a death world, hesitation meant death. You struck first and hard, or you didn't get a second chance. 3 days before the exercise, Hannah was walking back from her additional combat training when she heard voices from around a corner. The Deathworlder thinks she's better than us. The voice belonged to Rios. She makes the other instructors nervous, said another voice. Commander Velok thinks she's a bad influence on the other cadets. The war games will put her in her place. Her whole team, actually, maybe then they'll understand that some people just don't belong here. Hannah pressed herself against the wall and listened. What about the weapons? Asked a third voice. I have friends in the equipment department. The stunning weapons can be adjusted. Higher settings, longer paralysis duration. Nothing that would cause permanent damage, but enough to make a point. Is that safe? Safer than letting humans think they can compete with civilized species. Rios's voice carried satisfaction. Don't worry, it will look like an equipment malfunction. These things happen during training exercises. Hannah's hands clenched into fists. They were planning to cheat, to use dangerous weapon settings against cadets who couldn't defend themselves properly. She waited until the voices faded, then slipped away quietly. In her room, she found Yuki tending to her plants. Yuki, I need to ask you something important. Of course, if someone was planning to hurt innocent people, would stopping them be civilized or uncivilized? Yuki's wooden features creased with concern. That depends on how you stop them. Why do you ask? Hannah told her about the conversation she had overheard. Yuki's leaves rustled with agitation as she listened. This is serious, Yuki said when Hannah finished. You must report it immediately. To who? Rios is a senior cadet. His word against mine. And I was eavesdropping. Then what will you do? Hannah looked out the window at the peaceful academy grounds. Everything here was supposed to be safe and ordered. But underneath the civilized surface, the same old story was playing out. The strong picking on the weak, the popular targeting the different. The only difference was that here, they called it maintaining standards. I'm going to do what humans do best, Hannah said finally, which is protect people who can't protect themselves. Yuki's plant-like face showed worry. Hannah, please be careful. Don't let anger make you do something you'll regret. I won't let anger control me, but I won't let fear control me either. That night, Hannah lay awake, planning. Rios and his friends thought they had found the perfect way to humiliate the misfits and outcasts. A training accident that would put several cadets in the medical bay and send a clear message about who belonged at the academy. They were about to learn that humans from Deathworlds didn't scare easily, and they were very, very good at turning the hunter into the hunted. The war games were still 2 days away. When everything changed, Hannah was returning from her evening meal when she heard screaming from the medical wing. She ran toward the sound, her human reflexes moving her faster than the other cadets in the corridor. In the medical bay, she found chaos. Yuki lay on a treatment table, her bark-like skin blackened and smoking. Parts of her leafy hair had been burned away. Medical staff rushed around her with equipment Hannah didn't recognize. What happened? Hannah demanded. Dr. San, the head medical officer, looked up from his instruments. He was a tall, thin being, with gray skin and no visible eyes. Training accident, he said. Cadet Yuki was paired with cadet mechs for electrical systems practice. There was a power surge. Hannah looked around the medical bay. Cadet mechs sat in a corner, unharmed. He was one of the cadets who had been making trouble for Hannah. When he saw her looking, he smiled slightly. Where were her safety monitors? Hannah asked. Malfunctioned. Dr. San replied. These things happen. Both monitors at the same time. Dr. San's attention returned to Yuki. Please step back, Cadet Lee. We need room to work. Hannah watched as they treated her roommate. Yuki's plant-like body was tough, but electrical burns were serious for her species. She would recover, but it would take weeks. Yuki's voice was weak, like wind through dead leaves. I'm here. It wasn't an accident. Yuki's words were barely a whisper. Mechs did something to the controls. I saw him, but I couldn't move fast enough. Dr. San moved between them. Cadet Yuki needs rest. No more visitors today. Outside the medical bay, Hannah found June waiting for her. I heard what happened, he said. Is she all right? She will be. Eventually, Hannah's hands were shaking with anger. They hurt her because she's my friend. Are you certain? She told me it wasn't an accident. Mechs sabotaged the equipment. June's pale face grew even paler. This has gone beyond harassment. They could have killed her. I know. What will you do? Hannah looked through the medical bay window at Yuki's still form. Her gentle roommate who had never hurt anyone, who gave sympathy flowers to people who were sad, who believed that everyone deserved kindness. I'm going to end this by being what they think I am. The next morning, Hannah requested a meeting with Commander Velok. She found him in his office, his crystal body reflecting the morning light from the windows. Cadet Lee, I trust you are not here to make more complaints about imaginary persecution. No, sir. I'm here to make a formal request. Commander Velok's crystals shifted color. What kind of request? I want to withdraw from the War Games exercise. The silence stretched between them. Commander Velok's body went completely still. Explain, I don't think it's safe for me to participate. My human reflexes might cause accidents. Someone could Get hurt, I see. Commander Velok leaned back in his chair. And this decision has nothing to do with Cadet Yuki's unfortunate accident yesterday. Yuki's injury reminded me how dangerous I can be when I'm not careful. How thoughtful of you to consider others' safety. Commander Velok's voice carried satisfaction. Very well. I will approve your withdrawal. Perhaps this shows that you are learning wisdom. Thank you, Hannah left the office and walked straight to the equipment storage area. The war games would begin in the morning. She had less than 24 hours to prepare. The storage area was guarded, but humans had evolved to move quietly when they needed to. Hannah slipped past the security sensors using techniques learned during survival training on Colony 7. Inside, she found rows of training weapons, protective gear, and electronic equipment. She also found what she was looking for: the modified stun weapons that Rios and his friends planned to use. The modifications were clever. The power settings had been increased, but the changes looked like normal wear and calibration adjustments. Someone who didn't know what to look for would miss them completely. Hannah made her own modifications. Careful ones that would activate only when specific cadets used the weapons. She also borrowed a few pieces of equipment that weren't supposed to be available to first-year cadets. Items that would help her stay mobile during what was coming. By morning, everything was ready. The war games began at dawn. Blue team assembled at their starting position while red team took defensive positions around the flag. Hannah watched from the observation area with other cadets who weren't participating. I heard you withdrew, said a voice behind her. She turned to find Rios approaching. His metallic skin gleamed in the morning light. That's right, wise choice. This exercise will teach some valuable lessons about knowing one's place. I'm sure it will. Rios smiled and walked away to join the other observers. He clearly believed he had won, that the human had been intimidated into backing down. The exercise began with blue team advancing cautiously toward red team's position. Just as Hannah had predicted, her teammates tried negotiation first. They called out offers to discuss terms. Suggestions for peaceful resolution. Red team's response was immediate and overwhelming. Stun blasts filled the air. Blue team cadets dropped one by one, paralyzed by weapons set to dangerous levels. But something was wrong. Some of red team's weapons weren't working properly. The modified stun guns sparked and overloaded, leaving their users without weapons. In the observation area, Rios frowned. This wasn't going according to plan. Equipment malfunction, announced one of the supervising instructors. Stand by for technical assessment. During the confusion, a figure in dark clothing moved through the training area, fast, silent, using terrain and shadows to stay hidden from both teams. June was the first to notice. Is that ... impossible? Rios said. Cadet Lee withdrew from the exercise, but it was Hannah. She had entered the training area through a maintenance access that wasn't supposed to exist. Now she was moving through the battlefield like a predator stalking prey. She reached the first group of paralyzed blue team cadets and began dragging them to safety. Her movements were efficient, purposeful, no wasted motion. This is against regulations, Rios snarled. She can't interfere with an active exercise. Technically, said June quietly, she's performing a medical evacuation. That's allowed under emergency protocols. Red team noticed the interference and redirected their attention. Stun blasts lit up the area where Hannah had been, but she was already gone, moving, adapting, using every advantage the terrain offered. How is she doing that? Asked one of the observing cadets. She's hunting, June replied, but not like a civilized person hunts, like something from a death world hunts. Hannah reached Cadet Mex, the one who had hurt Yuki. He was advancing with his weapon ready, looking for blue team members to stun with dangerous settings. She dropped from a tree branch above him. Her feet hit his shoulders and drove him face first into the ground. His weapon flew away into the bushes. Equipment malfunction, she said quietly as she zip-tied his hands behind his back with emergency restraints. These things happen. By the time the instructors realized what was happening, Hannah had neutralized half of red team and evacuated all the endangered blue team members. She moved through the training area like she owned it, turning the hunters into the hunted. Stop the exercise, Commander Velok ordered, but Hannah wasn't finished. She had one more target. Senior Cadet Rios had entered the training area himself, carrying a weapon that definitely wasn't standard academy equipment. He was hunting for Hannah with something that would do more than stun. Come out, Deathworlder, he called. Let's finish this properly. Hannah emerged from cover 50 meters away. She held no weapon. Her hands were empty. You want to finish this? She called back. Then finish it. Rios raised his weapon, but Hannah was already moving, not toward cover, toward him. She ran in a zigzag pattern that made targeting impossible. When Rios fired, the energy blast missed by inches. Before he could fire again, she was on him. The fight lasted 10 seconds. Rios was bigger, stronger, and armored by his natural metallic skin. But Hannah had grown up on a world where everything tried to kill her. She used his weight against him, turned his strength into a weakness, and put him on the ground with moves learned from surviving against creatures that had evolved specifically to hunt humans. When it was over, Rios lay unconscious. His illegal weapon was broken, and Hannah stood in the middle of the training area, surrounded by instructors and observers who had watched a first-year cadet single-handedly dismantle an entire military exercise. Cadet Lee, Commander Velik's voice echoed across the area. "Report to my office immediately." As Hannah walked toward the command post, she passed June among the observers. "Was that civilized enough?" she asked quietly. June smiled with his pale, fragile features. "I think you just redefined what civilized means." Behind them, medical teams were treating the cadets who had been stunned with illegal weapon settings. Without Hannah's intervention, several of them would have been seriously injured. The war games were over, but the real war was just beginning. The Academy Tribunal convened 3 days after the war games incident. Hannah sat alone at a small table facing 5 senior officers. Commander Velik was there, his crystal body darker than she had ever seen it. Captain Tess sat at the far end, her face unreadable. "Cadet Lee," began Admiral Korth, a massive reptilian being who commanded the academy, "you stand accused of interfering with a military exercise, assault on a senior cadet, and unauthorized entry into restricted areas. How do you answer these charges?" "Guilty, sir." The simple answer seemed to surprise them. Admiral Korth's scaled eyebrows rose. "You admit guilt?" "Yes, sir, but I request permission to explain my actions." "Proceed." Hannah stood. She had spent 3 days thinking about this moment. Senior Cadet Rios and others were using modified weapons with dangerous settings. They planned to seriously injure cadets who couldn't defend themselves. "I had evidence of this conspiracy, but no way to prove it through normal channels. So you took matters into your own hands," Commander Velik said. His voice carried disapproval. "Yes, sir. On my world, when someone threatens innocence, you stop them, whatever it takes. This is not your world." "Cadet Lee," Admiral Korth said, "here, we have procedures, laws, civilized ways of handling disputes. With respect, sir, your civilized procedures were being used to cover up the conspiracy. Sometimes, the system protects the wrong people." The tribunal exchanged glances. Captain Tess leaned forward. "Cadet Lee, do you have any evidence of this alleged conspiracy?" Hannah placed a datapad on the table. "I recorded my modifications to the weapons. Analysis will show that they were designed to malfunction only when used with illegal settings. I also have medical evidence that Cadet Yuki's injuries were caused by sabotage." Dr. San, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "I examined the electrical equipment after Cadet Yuki's accident. The safety systems were deliberately disabled." "Why didn't you report this earlier?" Admiral Korth demanded. "Because I had no proof of who was responsible. Accidents happen." But combined with Cadet Lee's evidence, the tribunal spent an hour reviewing the data. When they returned their attention to Hannah, their expressions had changed. "The evidence supports your claims," Admiral Korth said finally. "Senior Cadet Rios and 3 others will face courts-martial for conspiracy and attempted assault. However, this does not excuse your methods." "Cadet Lee, I understand, sir. Do you? Because your actions raise serious questions about human fitness. For military service, you bypassed authority. You used violence when other options existed. You acted like a vigilante rather than a soldier." Hannah felt the familiar weight of judgment. No matter what she did, it would be wrong. Too aggressive or not aggressive enough. Too human. "Sir, may I ask a question?" "Proceed." "If you had known about the conspiracy in advance, what would you have done?" Admiral Korth considered. "Launched an investigation, gathered evidence, filed charges through proper channels." "How long would that have taken?" "Weeks, possibly months." "And how many cadets would have been injured while you gathered evidence?" The tribunal fell silent. Finally, Captain Tess spoke. "Cadet Lee makes a valid point. Sometimes military necessity requires immediate action." Captain Tess, Commander Velik said, "Surely you are not endorsing vigilante behavior. I'm endorsing results." Cadet Lee identified a threat, neutralized it with minimal casualties, and saved innocent lives. Those are the actions of a good officer. Are the actions of a Death Worlder, Admiral Korth said. "Violent, uncontrolled, effective," Captain Tess replied. The debate continued for another hour. Finally, Admiral Korth called for a decision. "Cadet Lee, this tribunal finds you guilty of insubordination and unauthorized action. However, given the circumstances and the lives saved by your intervention, we are prepared to offer alternatives to expulsion." Hannah's heart pounded. "What alternatives, sir?" "First option, transfer to a support role. No combat training, no leadership positions. You finish your education but never serve as a line officer. Second option, solo survival evaluation. Prove that you can follow orders and control your violent impulses. 72 hours alone in the Nexus Prime Wilderness. If you complete it successfully and without incident, you remain in the program." Hannah thought about Yuki, still recovering in the medical bay. About June, whose friendship had given her strength. about all the cadets who would face similar persecution. If humans were seen as unfit for service, I choose the survival evaluation. Sir, Admiral Korth nodded. Very well. You depart at dawn. Standard equipment only. Emergency beacon for genuine life-threatening situations. Automated monitoring drones will observe and evaluate your behavior. After the tribunal, Captain Tess walked with Hannah through the academy corridors. That was brave, she said. Or stupid. Sometimes those are the same thing. Captain Tess stopped walking. Hannah, I need to tell you something. That survival area isn't as safe as they claim. What do you mean? Nexus Prime was terraformed centuries ago. Most of the dangerous native life was eliminated, but not all. There are still predators in the deep wilderness. Things that hunt in packs. Why are you telling me this? Because I think some members of that tribunal hope you don't come back. Captain Tess's voice was quiet. They see you as a problem that might solve itself in the wilderness. You think they want me dead? I think they want the human problem to go away. Whether you die or simply disappear doesn't matter to them. That evening, Hannah visited Yuki in the medical bay. Her roommate's bark-like skin was healing, but slowly. You look worried, Yuki said. Hannah told her about the tribunal and the survival test. Yuki listened with growing concern. This feels wrong, she said finally. Like they are sending you somewhere dangerous and hoping you don't return. Maybe, but if I refuse, I'm expelled anyway. What will you do? What humans always do. Survive. June found her packing that night. Her single bag contained basic survival gear, water purification tablets, and emergency rations. I calculated the survival statistics for your evaluation area, he said without preamble. An 87% success rate for most species, 62% for humans. Why the difference? Human metabolism requires more calories. Your species overheats more easily in this climate. And June hesitated. And what? The monitoring drones record everything. But they are not supposed to intervene unless you activate your emergency beacon. Some previous human cadets activated their beacons and were found dead before rescue arrived. Hannah stopped packing. How many humans have taken this test? 12. Over the past 5 years, how many passed? June's pale face was grim. 3. The numbers settled over Hannah like cold water. This wasn't just a test. It was a death sentence with plausible deniability. June, if I don't come back, make sure people know what really happened here. You will come back. You are from a death world. This is just another day for you. But as Hannah looked out at the peaceful academy grounds, she wondered if even Death World training would be enough for what was waiting in the wilderness. The next morning, a transport took her to the edge of the evaluation zone. The pilot, a nervous Florinian, checked her equipment one final time. Emergency beacon here, he said, pointing to a device on her belt. Press and hold for 3 seconds if you need immediate extraction. What constitutes immediate need? Life, injury, encounter with dangerous native wildlife. Equipment failure that threatens survival. The pilot handed her a map. Extraction point is here, 72 hours from now. Be there on time, or the test fails. Hannah studied the map. The extraction point was 50 kilometers away through rough terrain. Doable, if nothing went wrong. Any advice? She asked the pilot. Looked nervous. Stay away from the deep valleys. That's where the pack hunters live. What kind of pack hunters? But the transport was already lifting off, leaving Hannah alone in the wilderness. The first day went well. Too well. The terrain was challenging but not impossible. Water was available from clear streams. The weather stayed mild. It felt like a setup. By evening, Hannah had covered 15 kilometers and found a defensible camping spot on high ground. As darkness fell, she heard sounds from the valleys below. Howling, not like wolves from Earth, but something similar, something hungry. She built a small fire and settled in to wait for dawn. Above her, automated drones circled silently, recording everything. The second day brought the first real challenge. A landslide had blocked the main path, forcing Hannah to detour through lower ground. Dangerous ground, according to the pilots. Warning. As she picked her way through a narrow valley, Hannah felt eyes watching her. The forest was too quiet. No bird sounds, no insects, just the whisper of wind through alien trees. She found the first set of tracks near a muddy stream. Four-toed paws, the size of dinner plates, fresh, recent. The pack was already hunting her. Hannah looked up at the monitoring drones circling overhead. They recorded everything but would do nothing to help. She was truly alone. On a death world, alone meant dead. But she wasn't on a death world anymore. She was on a civilized planet where the dangers were supposed to be manageable. As the howling grew closer, Hannah realized that civilized planets could be just as deadly as death worlds. They were just dishonest about it. Night was coming, and with it, the hunt would begin in earnest. The pack found Hannah on the second night. She had chosen her camping spot carefully. High ground with rocks at her back and clear sight lines in all directions. A small fire to keep night predators at bay. Everything her survival training had taught her. But the creatures hunting her weren't ordinary predators. They came silently through the darkness. 6 of them, moving like shadows through the trees. Each one was the size of a large wolf, but built like a hunting cat. Their eyes reflected her firelight like green stars. Hannah reached for her emergency beacon, then stopped. If she called for help now, she failed the test. Failed her species. Proved that humans couldn't handle what civilized worlds considered routine challenges. The lead creature stepped into the firelight. Its fur was dark gray with black stripes. Rows of sharp teeth filled its mouth. When it looked at her, Hannah saw intelligence in its eyes. This wasn't a mindless beast. It was a thinking killer. She grabbed a burning branch from her fire and stood up slowly. On Earth Colony 7, showing fear to predators was the same as ordering your own death. Come on, then, she whispered. The creatures circled her. They had done this before. Hunted other cadets who had taken the survival test. Cadets who had pressed their emergency beacons and died. Waiting for rescue that came too late. The attack came from 3 directions at once. Hannah dove to her left. Swinging the burning branch at the nearest creature, it yelped and pulled back. But the other 2 were already on her. Claws raked across her back, tearing through her uniform and into flesh. She rolled, came up running, and sprinted for the rocks behind her camp. The pack followed, howling with excitement. They thought they had her. They were wrong. Hannah reached the rocks and spun around. Her back was protected now. The creatures could only attack from the front. She had changed the rules of the hunt. The lead creature charged. Hannah met it with the burning branch, driving the flaming end into its face. It screamed and fell back, but another one leaped at her from the side. She caught it in midair with both hands, using its own momentum to slam it against the rocks. Bones cracked. The creature went limp. But there were still 4 left, and Hannah was bleeding from multiple wounds. Her human strength was impressive, but it wouldn't last forever. The pack regrouped, more cautious now. They had expected easy prey, a soft cadet from a civilized world who would panic and die quickly. Instead, they faced something that fought back like they did, something that understood killing. Hannah grabbed a sharp piece of rock from the ground. Her movements were becoming automatic now, driven by instincts honed on a world where hesitation meant death. "You want to know what a death worlder looks like?" she asked the darkness. "Let me show you." The second wave of attacks came differently. The creatures had learned. They fainted and retreated, trying to tire her out, trying to make her bleed until weakness took over. But bleeding wasn't new to Hannah. On Colony 7, everyone learned to fight while injured, to keep moving when part of you was broken, to find strength when strength should be impossible. She killed the second creature with the sharp rock, driving it deep into the thing's skull when it got too close. The third one died when she grabbed its throat and squeezed until something vital gave way. To left, the leader, and 1 other. By now, the sun was starting to rise. Hannah had been fighting for hours. Her uniform was shredded and soaked with blood. Some of it was hers. Most of it, WASN. Single quotes T. The remaining creatures backed away. They had lost half their pack to what should have been easy prey. The math of predation no longer worked in their favor, but the leader wasn't ready to give up. It had intelligence, and intelligence could be more dangerous than animal instinct. It rushed her one final time, not trying to kill, but trying to knock her down. To break her footing on the rocky ground, Hannah saw the strategy and adjusted. Instead of dodging, she grabbed the creature as it hit her, used its weight to fall backward in a controlled manner, landed on top of it with all her body weight focused on one elbow. The creature's spine snapped. The last predator looked at Hannah standing among the bodies of its packmates. She was covered in blood and breathing hard, but she was still alive, still dangerous. It turned and ran. Hannah sank down onto the rocks, suddenly aware of how much she hurt. Claw marks covered her arms and back. Her left shoulder felt wrong, probably dislocated. One of her ribs might be cracked, but she was alive. Above her, the monitoring drones circled silently, recording everything. The Academy would see exactly what had happened here. They would see what a human looked like when survival was the only option. Hannah looked at her emergency beacon, still attached to her belt, still unused. "Screw your test," she said to the drones. "I'm finishing this." The third day was agony. Every step sent pain through her injured body. But Hannah kept moving toward the extraction point. She had 2 hours to cover 35 kilometers with wounds that would have sent most species to the medical bay. She made her own medical supplies from plants and materials found in the wilderness. Bandages from her torn uniform, antiseptic from tree sap that smelled like alcohol, pain relief from leaves that her survival training said were safe for human consumption. By afternoon, she was moving like a ghost through the forest, silent, efficient, deadly to anything that got in her way. More creatures tried to hunt her. Smaller predators that thought an injured human would be easy prey. They learned otherwise. Hannah's capacity for violence had been awakened by the night's battle, and it didn't fade with the sunrise. She reached the extraction point an hour before the deadline. The landing zone was a cleared area surrounded by dense forest, empty, quiet. Hannah sat down on a fallen log to wait. Her body was a map of injuries, but her mind was clear, focused. She had survived something that was meant to kill her. The transport arrived exactly on schedule. The same nervous Floranian pilot who had dropped her off 3 days ago. When he saw her, his plant-like features went pale. Cadet Lee, what happened to you? I passed your test. You need medical attention immediately. I need to report to Admiral Cor. The pilot helped her into the transport. As they lifted off, Hannah looked down at the wilderness where she had spent 3 days fighting for her life. How many other cadets have you extracted from that zone? She asked. Many dozens. How many looked like me when you picked them up? The pilot was quiet for a long moment. None, he said finally. Most activate their emergency beacons within hours. Those who don single quotes, T. ... He didn't finish the sentence. Don't. What? Don't come back alive. The flight to the academy took 30 minutes. Word of Hannah's return had already spread. Cadets lined the landing pad as the transport touched down. Their faces showed shock as Hannah walked down the ramp under her own power. She was covered in dried blood and torn clothing. Her left arm hung at an odd angle. Claw marks crisscrossed her face and hands. But she was walking, moving, alive. Medical bay, Captain Tess said, appearing beside her. Right now. Report first, Hannah replied. Medical second. Hannah, you're barely standing. I'm standing. That's what matters. The crowd of cadets parted as Hannah walked toward the academy building. She could hear whispers following her. Is that really her? What happened out there? How is she still alive? June appeared beside her, his pale features tight with concern. The monitoring feeds cut out 12 hours ago, he said quietly. They said it was equipment failure, but everyone knew something had gone wrong. Nothing went wrong. Everything went exactly as it was supposed to. What do you mean? Hannah stopped walking and looked at her friend. They sent me somewhere dangerous hoping I wouldn't come back. But they forgot something important. What? I'm from a death world. Dangerous is what we do. In the Academy's main hall, Admiral Korth waited with the other members of the tribunal. Their expressions ranged from shock to disbelief to something that might have been fear. Cadet Lee, Admiral Korth said, report. Hannah stood at attention, despite her injuries. Survival test completed successfully. Sir, extraction point reached on schedule. Mission parameters met. You look like you went through a war. I went through a test designed to kill me, sir. It failed. The silence in the hall was complete. Everyone stared at the human cadet who had survived what was meant to be unsurvivable. The monitoring drones recorded unusual activity. Commander Velik said. His crystal body was pale, almost colorless. Pack hunters. 6 of them. 5, Hannah corrected. 1 ran away. You killed 5 native predators with your bare hands. With whatever was available, sir. Rocks, fire, improvised weapons. Hannah's voice stayed calm. They were trying to kill me. I disagreed with that plan. Admiral Korth exchanged glances with the other officers. Cadet Lee, those creatures have killed 7 cadets over the past 3 years. Emergency beacons activated, but rescue arrived too late. Then maybe the test parameters need adjustment, sir. Or maybe, Captain Tess said from the back of the room, you need to stop using it. As an execution method, the accusation hung in the air like smoke. Admiral Korth's scaled features darkened. That is a serious charge. Captain, it's a serious situation. Admiral, sending cadets into known predator territory with instructions not to call for help unless they're dying, then making sure help arrives too late. The test has legitimate educational value. For who? The cadets who survive it, or the ones whose bodies you recover later. Hannah listened to the argument with growing understanding. This hadn't been about testing her abilities. It had been about making the human problem disappear quietly. But she hadn't disappeared. She had survived. And now everyone in the academy knew what a human looked like when backed into a corner. Admiral, Hannah said quietly. The room fell silent. Yes, Cadet Lee. Permission to make a statement. Sir. Granted. Hannah looked around the hall, at the faces watching her, alien faces from dozen different worlds. Some showed fear, some showed respect. A few showed something that might have been understanding. 3 days ago, you sent me into that wilderness hoping I would die quietly, hoping the human problem would solve itself. Her voice carried clearly through the silent hall. But humans don't die quietly, and we don't forget who tried to kill us. Admiral Korth started to speak, but Hannah wasn't finished. You wanted to know if humans are too dangerous for civilized service. You have your answer. We are exactly as dangerous as we need to be. No more, no less. She turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Admiral, the next time you want to test a human's limits, try asking nicely first. We're usually happy to show you what we can do. As Hannah walked toward the medical bay, the hall behind her erupted in voices. Shocked, angry, afraid, but no longer dismissive. They had seen what a death worlder looked like when the civilized mask came off, and they would never forget it. 2 weeks later, Hannah stood in the Academy's main training facility. Her injuries had healed, but the scars remained. Thin white lines across her arms and face that marked her as someone who had survived what others couldn't. The facility was different now. New protocols were in place. New rules about cadet safety and supervision. The survival test had been suspended pending a full investigation, but the biggest change was in how people looked at her. Cadet Lee, Commander Velik approached her. His crystal body pulsed with nervous energy. "May I speak with you?" "Of course, sir." They walked to a quiet corner of the facility. Around them, other cadets practiced with training weapons under careful supervision. No more modified equipment. No more dangerous surprises. "I owe you an apology," Commander Velik said. The words seemed difficult for him, "sir. I believe that humans were inherently violent, uncontrolled, dangerous to civilized society." His crystals shifted to a softer blue. "I was wrong." "How so, sir?" "You had every opportunity to use excessive force during the war games, to seriously injure Cadet Rios and his conspirators. But you used exactly the amount of violence necessary to stop them. No more." Hannah nodded. "Violence should have a purpose, sir. Anything else is just cruelty." "Yes, I understand that now." Commander Velik paused. "The survival test was designed to be impossible for humans. We told ourselves it was educational, but the truth is darker. We wanted you to fail." "I know, sir, yet you survived anyway. And when you returned, you could have demanded punishment. For those responsible, could have used your survival as a weapon against us. Instead, you simply continued your studies. What would revenge accomplish, sir? The guilty parties have been removed. The system has been changed. That's what matters." Commander Velik's crystal body seemed to brighten. "You show wisdom beyond your years, Cadet Lee. Perhaps that is what we feared most about humans, not your capacity for violence, but your capacity for mercy." After he left, Hannah continued her weapons practice. The new training protocols were more thorough but also fairer. No one was set up to fail anymore. "You're getting better," said a voice behind her. She turned to find Captain Tess watching her practice. "Thank you, ma'am. How are you adjusting to your new status?" "New status?" Captain Tess smiled. "You haven't noticed. Half the cadets here look at you like you're some kind of legend, the human who survived the impossible test." Hannah looked around the training facility. Captain Tess was right. Other cadets watched her with expressions ranging from awe to curiosity. Some even looked hopeful. "I don't want to be a legend," Hannah said. "I just want to be a good officer." Sometimes, those things go together. That evening, Hannah visited Yuki in their shared room. Her roommate had returned from the medical bay the week before, her plant-like body fully healed. "How was training today?" Yuki asked, tending to the flowers on her desk. "Different. People keep staring at me. Can you blame them? You did something extraordinary. I survived. That's what humans do." Yuki turned from her plants. "No, Hannah, you did more than survive. You showed everyone here that strength and kindness can exist in the same person, that being dangerous doesn't mean being cruel." A knock at the door interrupted them. June entered, carrying a datapad. "I have news," he said, his pale features excited. "The investigation results are in. And Admiral Korth has been relieved of command. 3 instructors have been court-martialed for conspiracy. The entire survival test program is being redesigned." "What about the other human cadets?" Hannah asked. "The ones who didn't make it." June's expression darkened. "Their families are being notified that their deaths were not accidental. Compensation is being arranged." Hannah felt a cold anger in her chest. 7 cadets had died because of the Academy's prejudice. 7 families had lost children to a system designed to eliminate the undesirable elements. "There's more," June continued. "The Academy is implementing new policies, anti-discrimination protocols, mixed species training teams, and they're recruiting more human instructors. Why? Because they finally understand what Captain Tess has been telling them for years. The galaxy is becoming more dangerous. Pirates, raiders, hostile species on the outer rim. They need officers who understand how to fight when fighting becomes necessary." The next morning brought unexpected visitors. A transport landed at the Academy carrying 3 figures in human military uniforms. Hannah recognized one of them from news broadcasts. General Park, the highest-ranking human in the Galactic Fleet. "Cadet Lee," General Park said when they met in Admiral Korth's former office. "I've been following your progress with great interest." "Thank you, sir. I understand you've had some challenges here." "Nothing I couldn't handle, sir." General Park smiled. "I can see that. Your survival test has become legendary throughout the fleet. Human cadets at other academies are using it as inspiration. Sir, they're no longer accepting discrimination. Quietly, they're demanding fair treatment. Using your example as proof that humans belong in military leadership positions." The general walked to the window overlooking the Academy grounds. "Cadet Lee, how would you like to be the first human to graduate at the top of your class?" "I'd like to earn it, sir." "You already have. Your tactical scores are excellent. Your leadership evaluations are outstanding. And you've proven that humans can handle any challenge the galaxy throws at them." 6 months later, Hannah stood at attention in the Academy's Great Hall. Around her, 200 cadets from 12 different species waited for the graduation ceremony to begin. She wore the green uniform of a fourth-year cadet, having been advanced due to exceptional performance. At her side hung the ceremonial sword given to the top graduate in each class. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species," announced the new academy commander. "I present the graduating class of 2387. The ceremony was different from previous years. No segregated seating. No separate recognition for different species. Everyone was simply a cadet of the Galactic Military Academy." When Hannah's name was called as class valedictorian, the applause was thunderous. It came from every species in the hall, including many who had once seen humans as too dangerous for civilized service. Her speech was short and simple. "6 months ago, many of you saw me as a threat, something too violent, too unpredictable for military service. You were right about one thing. Humans are dangerous. But we're dangerous to the enemies of peace, not to our friends and allies." She looked out at the mixed crowd of cadets, instructors, and families. "The galaxy is vast and full of challenges we can't imagine yet. When those challenges come, we'll face them together. Not as separate species, but as one unified force, committed to protecting those who can't protect themselves." The applause came again, longer this time. After the ceremony, Hannah walked through the academy gardens one last time. Tomorrow, she would report to her first assignment as Lieutenant Lee of the Galactic Fleet. But tonight, she wanted to remember where it all started. She found Yuki and June waiting by their old dormitory building. "So," Yuki said, "how does it feel to be the most famous human in the galaxy?" "Terrifying," Hannah admitted. "Everyone expects me to be some kind of superhero now." "You are," June said quietly. "Not because you're stronger or faster than everyone else, but because you showed us what it means to protect people." "What's next for you too?" "Medical Corps," Yuki said. "I want to help heal the wounds that conflict creates." "Intelligence Division," June added. "Someone needs to spot the threats before they become dangerous." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching other graduates say goodbye to their academy years. "Do you think we changed anything?" Hannah asked. "Look around," Yuki said. Hannah looked. Across the gardens, she saw mixed groups of cadets from different species talking and laughing together. Human cadets studying with alien partners. Alien instructors teaching human techniques. The rigid barriers that had existed when she arrived were gone. Not completely, perhaps, but enough to make a difference. "We changed everything," June said. A year later, news reports reached Earth about the Corvin crisis. Hostile raiders had attacked 3 colony worlds, overwhelming local defenses with brutal efficiency. The Galactic Fleet's initial response had been careful, measured, civilized. It had also been completely ineffective. Then Lieutenant Lee arrived with a mixed-species tactical team trained in what the media called Death World Doctrine. Aggressive tactics combined with precision strategy, overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. The Corvin raiders, who had spent months terrorizing civilized worlds, were eliminated in 3 days. The victory made headlines across the galaxy. More importantly, it opened doors for other humans seeking military careers. Applications to the academy from human colonies increased tenfold. But in her private moments, Hannah remembered the conversation that had started everything. Captain Tess asking her how the peaceful academy made her feel. Nervous, she had answered, "What happens when something goes wrong?" Now she knew. When something went wrong, the galaxy called on the people who understood that sometimes violence was the only answer to violence. That sometimes protecting the innocent required dangerous people willing to do dangerous things. The academy had tried to break her because they feared what humans represented. In the end, they had created exactly what they needed, a bridge between the civilized galaxy and the harsh realities that civilization couldn't always handle with words and compromise. Hannah kept a piece of that training facility door in her quarters, just as the story predicted. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Sometimes the only way to open a door was to tear it off its hinges. But knowing when to tear and when to turn, the handle, that was the difference between a warrior and a soldier. That was what made someone truly civilized.